Kathleen Kennedy is very good at one thing. She is very good at announcing things. I mean, just look at her track record in the past. Patty Jenkins' Star Wars movie. Taika Waititi Star Wars movie. Benioff and Weiss Star Wars movie. Rian Johnson Star Wars Trilogy. Kevin Feige Star Wars movie. Rey Star Wars movie. Old Republic Star Wars movie. I'm sure I am forgetting a lot of Star Wars movies that have been announced. But you might notice something, that none of these Star Wars movies have been made. The only one, and this is after The Rise of Skywalker, was all the way back in 2019, the last Star Wars movie to be released in theaters. After that, all we had is just announcements after announcements and projects mysteriously being shelved or just not being talked about at all. And only one movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, is the only Star Wars film within years after saying that they intended to do a Star Wars project for one movie per year after they had the Star Wars story little subline started with Rogue One. Mandalorian and Grogu, only Star Wars project to get off the ground in that amount of time. And I believe that the only reason it did is because of the little bit of success with the Mandalorian show, but I think that has run its course and that's we'll see, but that might not work out. But today we have a new announcement. We have yet 3 more Star Wars movies that have been announced. And I want to remind you, this is in the midst of something like the Rey movie losing its writer, in the midst of Daisy Ridley saying that it's going to happen for sure. I highly doubt that. You just lost the writer of your movie. It's nowhere to be found. There's no progress happening on it, even though Hollywood desperately needs to more movies right now. You need these things lined up. But in the midst of us seeing none of these projects work out and seeing just the constant back and forth on stuff with something like the Rey movie, that was a part of 3 movies that had been announced to come about in a certain amount of time. We have 3 more Star Wars movies that have just been announced, and it's allegedly going to be a trilogy to follow up on the Skywalker saga that did 7 through 9, and now it's going to be 10 through 12. And so this is alleged because there's been a little bit of disagreement from the article that came out about this from Deadline versus what insiders are saying, that it might not actually be 10 through 12 on the Skywalker saga, which is, I guess, what they're calling it now. A new trilogy for Star Wars. After, 10 films have been announced, and only one of them has gone off the ground after years and years and years of all these other projects just being forgotten. You decide that now was a good time to announce 3 more films in a trilogy in this continuity. But here's the thing. It's been announced that they're going to be written by one person, and that person is Simon Kinberg. And if you're wondering who Simon Kinberg is, he is the writer of such prestigious films as Dark Phoenix, Fant4stic, aka Fantastic Four 2015, considered one of the worst superhero films ever made. Oh, and this will sell it to you. He wrote X-Men: The Last Stand. The film that destroyed the original Fox X-Men franchise, the movie that had to have another film, Days of Future Past, come in to try to retcon that film just to try to salvage the X-Men universe. X-Men: The Last Stand, another one of the worst superhero movies ever made. The original character assassinator. X-Men: The Last Stand, Dark Phoenix, and Fant4stic. What a resume. And that's who you got to do your new Star Wars trilogy. In the midst of people being turned off, burnt out, not even wanting to rage about it anymore. In the midst of all of this negativity around Star Wars. That's who you get in your big announcement for your next 3 Star Wars films. My brother came up to me and he's had a quote for a movie that expressed his feelings about this announcement.
I'm in a loop. I'm caught in a time loop.
We do this again and again and again under Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars. She announces things and announces them and announces them, and nothing ever gets off the ground. I think that Dave Filoni is the person responsible for The Mandalorian and Grogu getting off the ground. But so many things are announced, and she has such a bad track record. Like, is it such a coincidence that most of the people that she chose for these films, Patty Jenkins, Taika Waititi, Benioff and Weiss, they combusted their careers shortly after getting the announcement? Why would you announce a Star Wars movie trilogy now when you just announced a trilogy of films? At least, I don't know if they would have been all connected, but you did Old Republic, and you were going to do Mandalorian and Grogu, you were going to do the Rey movie, and the Rey movie cannot get off the ground. They can't get anyone to stay with it. They are not going to make that Rey movie. They just aren't. The audience isn't there for it. There are too much negativity around these female leads right now. One that I'm worried is going to damage it for getting actual good female leads out there, but Rey was like one of the archetypes of those characters. No way you're going to possibly get that off the ground. It will not happen. They cannot make that. These movies are not going to happen. The Mandalorian and Grogu is not a guaranteed hit for what we said with The Mandalorian. The kind of hype around that really died down. You know, what if that doesn't do well? What are you going to do then? Are you going to do your Rey movie, actually? Are you going to do this trilogy with the writer of Fant4stic, Dark Phoenix, and The Last Stand? It's funny how the guy wrote X-Men The Last Stand twice. That actually makes a lot of sense now. But here's what I want to say in this video. This is the same thing over and over again. That I've done videos covering how there's a lot of change happening at Disney, lots of change happening at Marvel, Disney Animation, Pixar. What they're doing is they're going back to the people who made the movies that were successful work and going forward with there. Lucasfilm is the one area, like even Warner Brothers getting James Gunn. Like I keep going back and forth on how I feel about DC going forward. I'm not really into any of that. I mean, I want Superman to be good. I don't know how I feel, but here's the thing. At least they're doing something. At least they're doing something to try to get people back with DC, whether you agree or not, whether you agree or not with what they're doing with Marvel and everything else. Lucasfilm just stays committed to the same place that they've been in since 2019. What is going on there? There is no hype around any Star Wars announcement anymore because no one expects any of these films to ever get made because usually none of them do. Like, I had to see test footage at a convention to be convinced that The Mandalorian and Grogu was going to happen, and no one's excited for that, honestly. No one's excited for any of these announcements. And what I'm seeing with this announcement of the guy who's going to do these new Star Wars movies, allegedly writing them, no one likes it. And it used to be more infighting around this. Nobody supports this decision to have him come in because this is a guy who has done no good body of work apart from maybe a few episodes of Rebels. And it's like, so you're getting a guy who's in-house, who hasn't really proven he can carry a trilogy, let alone a single movie, and you expect that to do what? Like, I think that a lot of these announcements are just Lucasfilm trying to appease the board, saying, look, we have stuff we're developing. But at this point, could the board not realize that they're just being humored here, that this branch of what was once a very lucrative franchise has been run to the ground? They're not producing anything. There needs to be some change. Like, what is wrong with Lucasfilm that they're so deadlocked in whatever they aren't doing right now? Like the guy who did Godzilla -1, I don't want to mispronounce his name, so I'm not going to say his name out loud because I'm going to mispronounce it. Anyway, the guy who did Godzilla -1, excellent film, one of the best films of last year. He said that he wanted to do a Star Wars movie. And I'm thinking, if you announce the director of Godzilla -1 to do a Star Wars film, a low-budget Star Wars film, just see what he can do. Despite everything that has happened in the past 10 years, I would be there. I would be interested. You announce a Star Wars trilogy, a Rey movie, or a Mandalorian movie, or a Star Wars trilogy from the writer of X-Men The Last Stand and Dark Phoenix. Who did you expect to be excited for this? Why did you dare to even announce that? But here's the point. We need to continue to push back against this and make some noise about it, because it's like, Disney, you're making all these changes, but what about Lucasfilm? Why isn't Lucasfilm making any changes? What is wrong with that division that Star Wars used to be the biggest franchise in the entire world? And now you see all this failure with the theme parks and their streaming shows and all of that. And nothing is changing over there. They say Kathleen Kennedy's going to produce these 3 movies. She should not be. She needs to be gone. You cannot leave that branch like that. Why does that branch even exist anymore if you're not going to actually make the films you announce? Disney Star Wars needs to change. That's the entire point. I implore them to stop announcing things, to actually take notice that none of these films are actually getting made. We realize that now. There's no hype from us that these films are getting announced. There is nobody. People are unified. Nobody is happy with where Star Wars has gone. No one is happy with this announcement. People are pretty unified on that. I want you to realize that so actual change can finally happen, because people, I'm tired of it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. Have more videos out for you in the future. Thank you, patrons, as always. Age of Ultron critique coming soon. New short film coming soon. Thank you for watching again. See you next time.